Jamie J. I am a shareholder here at Bottleneck Distant Assistance, and this is Live with Bottleneck, where we help you stop the bottleneck in your business. Today, I'm talking with a good friend of mine. It's been a while since we connected, Matt Cubbler, and we're gonna have a nice chat there and talking about living a life of selfless service. Perfect topic for today. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this thing off and see you back in about 38 seconds. All right. It is Live with Bottleneck, where we help you stop the bottleneck in your business. My name is Jamie J. I'm a shareholder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance, and we are excited to talk to Matt Cubbler today. Matt's a good friend of mine, and I just found out he's moving close to my neck of the woods here in the future. It's pretty dang cool. He is an amazing, amazing human being. Today, we're going to be talking about living a life of selfless service. He's a speaker, mentor, a police officer, and a podcast host of Two Dates and a Dash is the name of his show. And why, oh why, can Matt help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, he's a lifelong servant who has spent 32 years serving his country and community as a soldier and police officer. Thank you for your service. He's also an entrepreneur, inventor, author, youth mentor, and host of Two Dates and a Dash podcast. His only goal in life is to live life with purposeful intention and meaningful conviction in service of others. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, all of that is actually 150,000% true. Without any further ado, please allow me to introduce you to the one and only Matt Cubbler. How are you, sir?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Man, hanging in there. I'm digging the Lindros jersey up there on this
side. Yeah. He was a client of mine at one point in time.
That is so cool, man. So what have you been up to?
Man, it's well, first of all, 2020 was like I don't even know what the word is for it, but it was certainly it was like throwing the e-brake at 80 miles an hour downhill in a semi truck. Like that's what 2020 felt like. Everything just sort of was like, oh crap. But as a police officer, I didn't really I wasn't impacted in the same way that many others were. A lot of small businesses. Now I was impacted on a secondary level, but a lot of small businesses were directly impacted. A lot of families were clearly directly impacted. Kids were directly impacted as far as not being able to go to school and learning issues and all that. So 2020, while it was bad, I had to go to work every day. So I didn't have to worry about necessarily where my paycheck was coming from and all that. Now there were secondary problems as far as like worrying about whether or not, especially early on, whether or not I was going to get sick and give it to somebody else and all that kind of stuff. But because we were around a lot of COVID people throughout this entire process. But for me, it was 2020 was an ability for me, a moment for me to really take a step back in life.
Yeah.
And really evaluate what is the most important to me. And I had spent the last 11 years building my business, Max Out, which was a unique fitness brand that we have a piece of patented equipment that we used in our gyms. I built that over the last 11 years, working 110 hours a week. And that was ripped out from underneath us from COVID. So, Pennsylvania was very, 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 very restrictive. I know it's a lot different in Missouri, which is one of the reasons why I'm moving there. But I knew as a business person, as an understander of situations, somebody who can make critical decisions in a second's notice, that things weren't going to return to normal anytime in the near future. And that my hands-on type gym business, where we do a lot of neurological and neuromuscular rehabilitation on top of training athletes, that was going to be the last thing that was going to reopen.
Yeah.
And financially, we didn't have the business model that would allow us to absorb the amount of revenue that we would have to put out to keep our employees employed and the potential of reopening. So we made the decision, very difficult decision, to shut down permanently early on. And it was the right choice. Having spent the last 20 months or so living it, I'm pretty confident that we made the right choice. But it hurt because that was 11 years of my life.
Yeah, and you were doing some good things for people too. I remember watching your videos, helping people out that they just needed the help so bad, and it was really cool. And doggone, there was a lot of challenges with COVID, but I think there's a lot of blessings that kind of came out of COVID as well. And it seems to me you kind of capitalized on that.
Yeah, I mean, the key word in 2020, 2021 was, can businesses pivot, right? So we still have a manufacturing company. We still make our equipment. 2020 allowed us to actually apply for another patent, develop a new piece of technology while there was no rush to sell anything because nobody was buying anything. So we spent a lot of time doing R&D, and we got a new device coming out here in the next couple of months, which is exciting. But more importantly for me, I gained 50, 60 hours a week of freedom that I didn't have before. And at first it was very awkward. I didn't know how to not be going 110 hours a week. I didn't know what that felt like. And I felt like a part of my body was missing. It's almost like when you lose a limb and you have that phantom leg. It's like I had these phantom 60 hours that I was still, my brain and body were moving during those periods, but I didn't need to be.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to slow things down again. And man, does that feel good.
You know what? That's our theme. That's our theme this month and next month. Slow down to speed up. So I can totally understand. We experienced, a pretty heavy duty hit in our business here. And we were similar. I had to learn how to, okay. And we kind of stepped back and kind of took a look at the business and, okay, we need to really work hard on building this business the right way and kind of refocus, and renamed it, created our own category. And now we're kind of rolling that out, and we're really enjoying the process, but it was scary for a while. It was tough.
And as an entrepreneur, it's, you're used to risk. You're used to having that uncertainty at times. You're used to all that, but a lot of it's dependent upon your preparation and your execution, right? So with entrepreneurial work, you have an idea, a lot of work into building that idea to where it becomes something, and then that's something you got to grow and build it into something fruitful. That's the process we're used to. But when you throw in literally daily changes to what you are and are not allowed to do as an entrepreneur based on governmental oversight, that changes everything. There's no longer an opportunity for you to be at your very best because you don't have any control over any of it. And that was the hardest part as an entrepreneur, is knowing that everything that we were trying to do, no matter what we tried to do, there was going to be a shift that was a block that we couldn't see coming because we didn't know timing wise, we didn't know anything. It was just such an uncertain period of time and that's really the reason why we decided to shut down completely our gym model, is because I knew that if nothing else, I worked for the government for a long time. They don't do anything well, and they certainly don't do anything fast.
Yeah.
And I just knew it was going to be a prolonged period of time. And then I looked at the numbers, and I'm just like, there's absolutely no way we can withstand that. And, but on my pivot was more of a personal understanding of what I wanted to be. I'm 50, so I'm the second half of my life, and I'm on the back end of my police career, and the very back end of my police career. And I wanted to know whether or not there was outside of my manufacturing business for Max Out, is there another life for me? Not just working, but a new life.
Yeah.
And my best friend from the Army, Toby, and he's literally my right arm. And he lives in Nevada, Missouri. And I told my wife, I'm a nomad at heart. I want to move. I want to constantly be changing my scene and my environment. And I got married to a homebody, so the urge to
opposites attract.
Yes. And 2020 helped us both see that there's a better place for the way that we believe and the way that we think, and our morals and religious convictions, and just things that are a little bit more centrally important to us, that became very clearly more important to us during this period, didn't reside in Pennsylvania.
Mm.
And, took my wife out a couple times to Nevada, and, it's a completely different world than the East Coast. We have 850,000 people in my county, and, it's a very populated area outside of Philadelphia, and moving to a place that doesn't have even remotely a tenth of that. And that's scary as hell, because I'm a city kid at heart. I've never had more than mostly row homes, but biggest yard I ever had was a quarter acre. So I don't know I didn't know what 30 acres looked like, dude. Have you ever stood on what you know to be 30 acres?
Oh yeah. I'm in Springfield, Missouri. So I'm, coming from the West Coast, where there's similar, it's concrete jungle, to moving to a place that's green and lush. And I mean, in an hour, you can be at a beautiful lake. You can be in the middle of nowhere. And it's fantastic. You're going to love it. I'm so happy for you.
I stood on my land 2 weeks ago. For the first time in my life, I own something that is tangible, like that concept of buying dirt, right? Like there's never not going to be a value, whether it's value to your family, value to your, handing it down to your children, or value to sell it. Like there's always a value to buying dirt. And I stood on 30 acres for the first time in my life that I knew was 30 acres. Like I've stood on big plots of land before, but I had no conceptual understanding of how big it was. 30 acres is gigantic. It's 6.5 football fields by 2.5 football fields. And when you stand in the middle of it and you're like, holy crap, I own all of this. Then I began to think, like, where do you start? Like, where do I put a house? Like, how would I even know where to put a house? Like, I'm in my mind, and luckily my best friends, I call him my redneck MacGyver, because he is the smartest human being I've ever met in my life, and he can build anything out of anything. So he's going to be my
that's a good buddy to have.
Yeah, you got to have one of those.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah,
I'm excited.
So awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, you've worked half your life, and now I like to refer to it as the Encore Life, entering in with your own land, your own domicile. It's all you, and you can do with it what you will. It's just fantastic. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome. So I want to touch base on a couple things. First, in the Army, what was your MOS?
I was Intel. I was a SIG guy, signals intelligence guy.
Okay.
I was an analyst, essentially.
And how long were you in?
4. For good years. I mean, I definitely enjoyed my time in the Army, because I made the Army, and if I was in any other job, I wouldn't have been able to do this. But I made the Army adapt to me instead of me adapt to the Army. Because typically, you go 11 Bravo, infantry, or any of the more structured, MOSs where it's all about the process. It's all about wash, rinse, repeat. And that's how they build cohesive units and teams. Intel is a little bit different. It was more of I don't want to say lackadaisical, but it was a lot looser of a command structure. There wasn't as much hut saluting, way more colleague driven. Even though there was ranking informations and PT and inspections and all the stuff that you had, but the day-to-day, the 10, 12-hour shifts you had was more of a collegial colleague type respect with your captain, warrant officers, everyone else that was that you were working closely with. So I was able to take my personality and make it work in an Army, because I would have never lasted 4 years in the Army simply because of my personality. I ask a lot of questions. I don't believe everything as it's initially told to me. I don't necessarily like being ordered, and I certainly don't like being forced to do anything. So, and that's literally the last 32 years of my life. People look at my life and they go, "You're such a contrarian," and yet you spend 32 years in a world where literally it's uniforms, it's order and structure and
rules and regulations.
But somehow I made them all work for me.
So, and you're still a police officer.
Yep.
And how long have you been a police officer?
28 long, frustrating, but yet rewarding years.
Wow. Um, so I don't get political online. I try to stay away from that. But with
I can't
COVID,
say I do.
yeah, it's challenging, right? You know, I'm questioning whether or not to go down this road with you, but I I'm a huge fan of our service members, of our police and fire. A huge fan. I mean, if the building's on fire, people run out, the firemen run in. If there's gun shooting, people run away, the police run towards it. Like that it just baffles my brain that what our police and our firemen do. First responders, it's just incredible. We're so blessed to have you. So I want to thank you first and foremost for your service, because what a thankless business it seems.
It's been on a slow decline.
Yeah, there's so many people leaving the force right now, and I've never seen more openings in my life, but it's kind of scary, huh?
Well, so now I'll try to keep this as apolitical as possible for us.
That's why I'm struggling. I'm
Yep.
struggling a little bit, but it's on my mind. I think it's on a lot of people's minds.
And I think it's important to have the conversation without it turning into left, right, or center. So if we stick strictly with the facts at hand, which is there's an all-out war against law enforcement in our country. Politically, there's this we're the football, and they're fighting over, everybody's Blue Lives Matter, or is it defund the police? There's this political football, which is me, the cop, that's getting yanked back and forth. Do I believe that in the last 28 years of my career that law enforcement has had its hiccups? Yes. Do I believe that by and large 99.9% of all police officers get into the job with the intention of doing good things and helping people, and they try hard to do that every day? Yes. Do I believe there is improvements that need to be made in hiring practices and training? 1,000,000,000%. The problem I have is that when we categorically place a profession where the only option is perfection, and then judge it based on the imperfections that arise from choices that don't have necessarily time or hindsight or anything that you can work through them in order to come up with the best possible answer. 99% of all the things that are getting police officers on the front page are the things that are literally the worst decisions a police officer could ever have to make, which is to take someone else's life. And while I'm not necessarily a detail driven guy, I am a wing it guy by nature. I also believe in facts and truths. So the belief that there is this epidemic or pandemic, whatever word you want to use, of police officers killing unarmed black men in America is just simply factually inaccurate. Does it happen? Yes. Is it a pandemic? Is it something where we need to blow up the system and build it all over again with some very nonsensical idea on how to modern police? The realities are, and I'll use 2019 or 2020, we're looking at less than 1,100 police-involved deaths in the whole country in a calendar year. So less than 1,100 deaths. And when you think, and that's across all color spectrums, all nationalities, all sexes, it's 1,100 people died at the hands of police. And out of those 1,100, typically there's less than, 50 that are unarmed. And out of those 50, it's broken down between white, black, brown, whatever. And of those unarmed, maybe 5 were deemed unjustified. And those people paid the price that made that decision. Do I believe in any point, and there, of course, there's an anomaly in everything. And I did a TEDx audition, which I made the top 30 and they took 25 and I didn't get in. Because of the topic I chose. And I was told that it was too
controversial
for the academic audience. I chose chaos. The theme was chaos, and I chose what does an officer feel when they're about to pull the trigger to kill somebody.
Wow.
And the chaos that's going through your heart and mind during that period of time when you go from 0 to 60, 0 to a million, whatever that is, in the blink of an eye. And everything you've ever learned, trained for, experienced in life is helping create the decision process in nanoseconds. And you have to read, observe, and decide whether or not there is a threat that would require you to take someone else's life. And I try to explain to them that it's at that moment, it's not anger or hate or racism or bigotry or any of those things. It's fucking fear. And every single human goes through the flight, freeze, or fight component. The difference between me and you, Jamie, is that you have the opportunity to lock your door and do nothing. You have the opportunity to run away and say, I'm not playing this game. I don't have that. I don't get that opportunity. So, but I still have the same biochemical reaction happening inside my body. And we're literally, it's like a salmon swimming up a vertical waterfall and trying to get to the top. I'm fighting against all those emotional triggers and still trying to keep my focus and my attention and my understanding and allowing all the training and everything I've ever done in my life to rise to the surface so I can make the right decision. Sometimes you make the wrong one. And then your life is over. Conceivably, that will follow you forever. Whether it's psychologically follow you forever or physically, people will remind you of what you did. And it wasn't done in the manner by which it's being portrayed. We're not talking about a bunch of KKK card member cops. That's not what it is. It's simply and I used this example in my speech. I said, when you dial 911, you don't get to pick whether you get the rookie who's on his first shift or the guy's got 28 years on the job to come to handle your emergency.
It's closest next to who's up to bat.
Absolutely. And that rookie who may have grown up in lily white suburbs, never had to worry about dealing with anybody of any different color or nationality or religion, grew up in this little cocoon of suburbia, and is now working in Springfield or St. Louis, and is thrust into a situation that he's never once seen in his life, only saw training videos and practiced in the academy. Now he's got to make a choice, fighting all those emotional triggers that are happening inside of his body or her body, and make a decision. And no one ever wants to sit and have that conversation, that it's not simply, oh, you're trained, so therefore you should have made a better decision. It's, I'm human first, and I have the exact same craziness happening inside of my body. I just now have no choice but to make a decision. And if I make the wrong one for me, I'm dead, possibly, or my partner or civilian. And if I do nothing, and if I act and that person was pulling out a cell phone or a BB gun or something that isn't
flashlight,
what I thought it was in that split second moment, now I am the most horrific, vile human being on the planet because I killed an unarmed person. And God help you if you're white and the person was black. You're done. And this isn't about black and white, but the politics have painted this picture that we're a bunch of blue loving, whether you're black or white or Hispanic or whatever nationality, and you're a cop, we're all on this team together, this gang of thugs who are going out creating mayhem in the streets of every city. And it's simply just an inaccurate statement, but no one is willing to have the deep conversation. I've had plenty of conversations in the black community with leaders and explain to them that. And I'm like, you have to, as much as I have to understand you have to understand that when I'm called, I'm given literally 10 seconds of information from a dispatcher about what somebody on the other end of a phone told a call taker, and that call taker then put into some notes, and the dispatcher reads the notes to me. And that's the extent of what I know when I pull up to a call. Everything else is on the fly. And the goal is to use every tool in your toolbox before you get to the gun.
Yep.
And that's kind of, when you think about my job, and the reason why I am retiring sooner rather than later is because I'm just done. And I think that's an overwhelming majority of people who have, served 2-3 decades doing this job.
Early retirement.
There's no upside for me to stay. There's only risk. I'm a 30-second video clip away from losing everything. And I'm not willing to risk my career and the things that I've worked for. And the only thing you get at the end of the rainbow is a pension.
Yeah.
I'm not risking it.
Well, I just want to say thank you and for your service. I mean, it's amazing. I have nothing but respect. I got a speeding ticket coming home from the lake. I don't know, a month or two ago. It was first
Lake of the Ozarks. Were you?
What's that?
Local lake or Lake of the Ozarks?
Yeah, local lake, Table Rock Lake. I was coming back, and we had spent the day out there, and just coming back, and I went to pass somebody, and you got to speed up to pass them, and boy, they caught me, and they turned around. They said, "I know you were," but I didn't mind. I had both hands on my steering wheel. I let them know I had my CCW. Like I was, and he couldn't have been nicer, And I was just thinking, man, when he walks up here, because our back window is tinted, our back door window is tinted, but the front door is lighter, so you can see him pretty good. But I rolled down my window, I put my hands on, and he couldn't have been nicer. And you know what? I could only imagine. I was thinking about when he was walking up, like, I wonder if he thinks, like he can't see in here. Is he worried? That kind of thing. And in Missouri, you don't have to have a CCW. You can carry conceal here. And you do not have to tell the police that you have a CCW or that you're carrying. But I volunteered everything, and I wanted to be, completely upfront and let him know. And that was it. Saw me, took off. Great. Got my ticket sorted. I was off, and I just have a ton of respect for you guys. And it's just really challenging, and gals, and it's just really challenging. I just give it up to you. And it's too bad, in my opinion, that they're, the message over the airwaves is what it is. And unfortunately, people thrive on negativity before positivity. And it is a shame. But I don't want to get too political in this. I just want to say thank you for that. And I think it has a lot to do with what we were talking about today, as far as living a life of selfless service, because I think that's exactly what that is. As you move on to your Encore Life, what are you looking forward to most?
I'm looking forward to being with my best friend, who, I only get to see once, maybe twice a year, and for the last 30 years. And, I told my wife, I said, you get to see yours at any point in time. She lives 5 minutes down the road. I said, now it's time for me to be able to be close to mine and spend some time. We always said we'd get old, fat, and stupid and shoot guns on our property. And that would just be the way that we'd end up spending our life. And that's kind of how it's going to look. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to moving to a place that is just a little bit more of a fit for me in today's climate. I'm looking forward to continuing to grow my podcast, even though I have a successful podcast, but I don't necessarily work at making it successful. I put it up on YouTube and all the podcasting platforms, and it just does well on its own. I don't really invest a lot of money or energy or technology into it. And I think I might end up doing that a little bit more as I get a little bit more freed up from my current career, and try to see if I can turn that into maybe some sort of a profit source. I don't know. Up until now,
what's the podcast about?
It's 2 dates and a dash. The title I got from that guy, Tim Tebow, who always talked about this poem, The Dash. And he would always, when he would give speeches to kids and the people that at churches and stuff like that, he'd say, your life is made up of 2 dates: the date you're born, the date you die, and the dash is the life that you live. And how you live that dash is ultimately what you're going to be judged on. And for me, I want to feature people that are living the hell out of their dash. And it doesn't matter if, I've had Craig Berube, the head coach of the Blues, on twice.
Yes, you did. I tuned in for that one.
He's a great guy. He went from, Saskatchewan or wherever the hell he's from in Canada, and became a NHL hockey player and was known for beating the crap out of people. And now he's one of the best coaches in the NHL. And I've had moms who've lost their kids to opioid overdoses. I've had business people who've, been successful. It's a wide range of types of people. I'm 19 or 20 episodes in. And but each of them have something to share. And my mom told me a long time ago, and thank you for reading my book, A Brother's Love, a memoir. But when I wrote that book, or the night that I wrote all the basic meat and potatoes of that book, without knowing I was writing a book, my mom told me everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody's got a story, but not everybody can tell a story. And I wanted to be a storyteller. And I wanted to help people who have that desire and that want and that ability to also tell a story, to have a place to do that. So I really enjoy podcasting. I never thought I would. Our mutual friend, Chris Lockett, was the second podcast I was ever on. And which is a pretty big podcast to land as your second one ever. But I learned from him about the value of sharing honesty and being transparent and having a conversation, and how important that in a podcasting type environment, that natural back and forth is really important.
It's huge. It's a game changer.
And it's my only real skill set. Like, I don't have a whole lot of super podcasting or marketing I can shoot the shit with anybody and really enjoy it. And I really want to know about people, and I don't do a lot of research. So my guess, I literally get whatever they send me in their bio, and that's all I do, because I want it to be as fresh for me learning about them as it is for the person who's watching the video. And then, as a cop, that's what I do is quickly get to the next. If I see an opening, or if I'm dealing with a suspect or a victim, trying to get them to open up more, I know kind of how to navigate conversation. So it's easy for me to quickly figure out the next line of questioning or the direction to go in. So it seems to be working. And my best review I ever got on iTunes was, he's no Joe Rogan, but give him time.
Wow, that is so cool.
I was like, listen, that some people like, maybe that's a dig. I'm like, no, he's saying at some point in time, I might actually get there.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we're past the time. I promised you we'd try to keep it 20, 30 minutes. We went a little bit over. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they want to learn more about you or listen to your podcast?
Cubbler.com. On there is everything from my book to the leadership stuff I do, the mentoring, public speaking, and then also there's a tab up there for the podcast. So you can look at all the videos and listen to the audio on every podcast that I've done.
Well, thank you so much. Really quick, what's the name of your book? And quick 30-second overview.
It's called A Brother's Love, a memoir. There we go. I wrote it 16 years ago about my brother Andy, who was autistic, had a severe stutter. Sadly, he was killed in a car accident in 1989. And it's just our life story together, and then how his death impacted my life, and how I struggled for 13 years with depression, and how I came through that and basically became the person I am. And if it wasn't, people think I'm weird when I say this, but had my brother not died, I wouldn't be who I am today. And, he's that important. I know that we share that same bond.
Well, thank you for sending me a copy of that book. It's simply amazing. Highly recommend checking that out. Yeah, we share a similar story in that we both lost our brothers, but I find it strange that I agree with you, though. I would definitely not be the person I am today had I not lost my brother. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap?
No, I think the world needs to just take a breath, and I think we're going to be okay. I don't stress about the future of our country because I know that God's in charge, and put a lot of faith in that. And I know there's some things that I can't control, but the things I can control, I try to do very, very well, and with conviction and with passion and purpose and intention. And I think that's, if everybody just took a little bit of time to be more purposeful in their path with that level of intention and conviction, we'd be a whole lot better off.
From your lips, God's ears. Thank you, man. Thank you so much, Matt.
Well,
and do you have a second just to hang out while I go ahead and wrap up? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. We've been chatting today with Matt Cubbler. I told you, fantastic human being. He's a speaker, mentor, police officer, and podcast host of 2 Dates and a Dash. Definitely check that out. You can go to Cubbler.com, and on there you can find out what his podcast is. You can get a link to his book. And his podcast, again, is 2 Dates and a Dash. You can also check him out on LinkedIn, and he's on Instagram. So check him out. Thank you so much. And if I'm going to say one thing about living a life of selfless service, that is Matt Cubbler in a nutshell. And he's a pretty amazing person, pretty amazing character. There's a lot more that I wish I could have gone into, but time is of the essence here, and I want to respect everybody's time, especially Matt's. And thank you for those of you that have been watching. If you have any comments or questions for Matt, and you're watching this in a replay, please feel free to put it down in the comments. I'll make sure to figure out a way to get you in touch with Matt. But you can go to mattcubbler.com and check out everything there. Just want to give you a quick heads up. Bottleneck Television. If you go to Bottleneck.Online/BTV, you can learn more about how you can break through the bottleneck in your business today. And one of the things that I want to touch base on really quick, just to make sure you guys know this, when I say stop the bottleneck in your business, it also means stop the bottleneck in your life. Because I do not believe in a work-life balance. I just believe in life balance. You work, you live, you have fun, we cry, we laugh. It's all together. So if you want to go learn more about that, we've had hundreds of videos there. Also coming out September, August 31st, the published date, but September, first week of September, my book, Quit Repeating Yourself. It's all about the intersections of culture, leadership, systems, processes, recruiting, and hiring. I'm really excited about that. Thank you to my publisher, New Degree Press, for doing that. Previously, I talked with Matthew Turner. He just launched his new book, and we talked about how to escape the hustle. He's the author of Beyond the Pale. It's a fable about escaping the hustle and finding yourself, and it's the first in a series of 3 books. So if you missed that one, go check that out. And coming soon to your earbuds, Erin Jewell. She is executive mindset and growth coach of Erin Jewell Consulting. We're going to be talking about the 5 key considerations to make more out of your team experience. That's coming Thursday, July 29th, as I am going to be on a little vacation. And so coming to you pretty soon. Hope all's well. Everybody, don't forget, create your own ripple. Special thanks, hats off. Got a bad hair date, so I won't take it off. But special thanks and shout out to Matt Cubbler for joining us today. Have a great one. We'll talk to you soon.